Wow, VTI is up 9% over the last year. Not too bad. If you're a coward, listen, I can't judge. But what I do see is people burning themselves on zero date expiration options, maybe weekly options, or futures now that Robinhood has launched it. And then they go crawling to the safest thing they can find. And VTI is one of those things. It's an ETF that basically packs in as many stocks as possible. So you bring your risk down to basically the market risk. So people get torched, they run to VTI. In fact, there's a phrase out there called VTI and chill, which is like Netflix and chill, except for you don't get laid. You just buy VTI, and since you can't handle volatility, you just enjoy the risk of the entire stock market. Oh, but you can't outperform the stock market, so why try? Hedge funds fail all the time, right? So buy VTI. Just get market risk. You're exposing yourself. 9% is not that bad. Sure, I can get 4.5% on Robinhood, but 9% while exposing myself to the market, I'll take that. You know, maybe by retirement, I'll have 600,000. That's solid. I might not be able to afford a home, but at least I can get Chipotle once a week. I mean, what is the alternative? You go digging through all the ratios and the fundamentals of stocks to figure out what's undervalued and what's not? I get it though. Like, you can't go digging through all the financial ratios. Financial jargon is just chloroform in print. It's terrible. So you go digging through the ratios and it doesn't even matter because it's completely public. It's transparent to everybody. That's where the efficient market hypothesis actually makes sense. It comes into play because this information is public to everybody for people who can go past the PE ratio. So that excludes me. So if it's available to everybody and if people are willing to dig into the companies to price that in, it's going to be naturally priced in. So there's no point in searching for a company that's undervalued by using ratios. It's already available to the public. Therefore, it should already be priced in. Okay, so if you can't find an undervalued stock and make a return that outperforms the market in your portfolio, then why not just buy VTI? Why not a total market fund? Let's go even crazier. How about 10-year treasuries? Or fuck it, just burn your money. So here's the truth. The biggest edge retail investors have is lived experience. For example, do you eat Chipotle once a week and is it pretty packed in there? Well, there's a stock for that. Do you DoorDash Chipotle because you're too hungover to even walk to your car? There's a stock for that. Do you have an NVIDIA GPU in your computer? There's a stock for that. AMD CPU, there's a stock for that. How about all the chips that are used when you go crying to your online AI therapist like I do? There's a stock for that. Even the company that owns YouTube that you're watching me through right now, there's a stock for that. Really, Peter Lynch came up with this idea that the biggest edge retail investors have is their own lived experience, their experience in their industry or sector, and their experience of just being out there in the world, while these people within financial institutions are so wrapped up in everything that's above the shoulders mustard shit that they can't even fathom what real life actually even is. I mean, you go to New York, everybody in New York thinks New York is everywhere. I told one chick I was from Idaho. She asked if that was near Kentucky. Do you think people that are in financial institutions really care about what's going on around them? No, they care about the numbers. And that's why they fucking suck. And when someone tells you you can't beat the market, it's because you're chasing garbage tickers that nobody's ever heard of, like POOP, which is obviously a joke. I mean, it could exist. I have no idea. I haven't looked it up. But let's not forget that PP was a real thing. All right. Thanks, me, Kevin. And also thank you for taking it down. So they get burnt and they run to VTI because some YouTuber said 57% of tech stocks dropped by 70% or more between the periods of 1980 and 2020 and never recovered. What a scary statistic. But does it take into account the dot-com bubble, where everybody was buying every single stock that ended in .net? eToys, Pets.com, doesn't matter. There were some winners, Amazon, for example. But what that overview does is it excludes the fact that you have a brain and you're not buying all tech. You're buying certain stocks for certain reasons. Now, the bubble is a bubble for a reason. People are idiots, but I assume you're better than that. Is that a safe assumption? However, since VTI's inception in 2001, QQQ has beat it by over 600 percentage points. That's an over 1,000% return just by buying QQQ. Are you scared of that much volatility? Really? And you can look me square in the face and tell me I can't beat VTI in the long term when you can just buy a more aggressive ETF? What are you, that big of a sissy that you can't just buy the dip? I'm not talking to you. My audience is smarter than that. But for everybody else, they need to go look in the mirror, and as their sweat pools underneath their man tits, they need to look in their own eyes and ask themselves, should I buy VTI today? And see if they don't go so soft it turns into an innie. All right, let's talk about diversification for a second because it is important and shouldn't be overlooked. When you go from one stock in your portfolio to two, your risk drops substantially. 3 to 4 drops a little bit, 10 to 15, not so much. So there's diminishing returns on your risk reduction. You're approaching an asymptote the more stocks you add. You start approaching market risk by the time you hit like 20 stocks to 30 stocks. I go more than aggressive than that, but I'm just saying, why would you buy the entire stock market to get market risk when you can essentially have market risk with much fewer stocks and have more potential for more gains? You don't need to buy the entire fucking stock market to protect yourself from an individual stock failing. You just need to not be stupid. I got the ISDA. It's time to sit at the big kids table. Join Autopilot in the description below. This is In the Money. I'm back, and I'm not leaving. Peace.